Council and to the press and members of the public. As you know, this is the first meeting of the Council on a face-to-face basis following the application to the High Court made by the Association of Democratic Service Officers, the LLG and the Hertfordshire County Council in relation to virtual meeting provision for local authorities, which has been dismissed. As the regulations were in place until the 6th of May 2021, the Council must return to face-to-face meetings. I will now set out the housekeeping arrangements for the meeting. Please note that this meeting is being recorded by the Council for live and subsequent broadcast and will be published on the Council website for a minimum of 6 months. In order to ensure the meeting is managed effectively, please could everyone follow these ground rules for speaking. Should you wish to speak, please raise your hand physically to indicate. Wired microphones have been provided. If a councillor wishes to speak and is not sat at a seat where there is a microphone, a radio microphone will be provided. Could I just ask members to make sure that they raise their hands fully rather than so I can see, so that it give us a chance on the top here to see those members wishing to speak. Councillors are requested to maintain social distancing and wear a mask or visor for the duration of the meeting, and also whilst in the confines of the BIC. When a councillor wishes to speak, they can remove their mask but must maintain social distancing and replace their mask when they have finished speaking. Hand sanitisers are also available and should be used as appropriate. Where there appears to be a consensus in the meeting for the motion, I will ask if there is any dissension. When a formal vote is required, this will be carried out by a show of hands unless a recorded vote is requested, which requires support from a quarter of the members present at the meeting. Councillors are advised that the live stream of the meeting may include shots of councillors who are not speaking at the time. Evacuation details will be provided as appropriate by officers should there be a need to evacuate the building. Agenda item 1. Chief Executive, are there any apologies for this evening's meeting?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, apologies have been received from Councillor Nigel Brooks and Councillor Chris Matthews.
Thank you. Agenda item 2, the results of the by-elections. I would like to welcome Councillor Vanessa Ricketts, who was elected to the Commons Ward, and Councillor Sean Gabriel, who was elected to the Canford Heath Ward following the by-elections on the 6th of May last week. Welcome. Agenda item 3, declarations of interest. Chairman, Chief Executive, are you able to report on any declarations received for this meeting?
None have been received to date, Chairman.
Thank you. Agenda item 4, election of Chairman of the Council. Members of the Council, I seek nominations for the election of Chairman of the Council for the next municipal year and up until the next annual Council. Councillor Leslie Dedman, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I would like to make a nomination. Is that in order to do that now? Would you wait for any other nominations to come through? I would like to nominate you yourself.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dedman. Did you wish to add anything to that?
Yes, absolutely. Hang on, I find it very odd not to be standing up, so please forgive me. I assume we don't. I would like to propose Councillor Flagg for Chair of the Council 2021-2022.
Councillor Dedman, I've been advised that if you wish to stand, you can.
Oh, jolly good.
You might just need to adjust your microphone, perhaps. But thank you.
Thank you. Right. Thank you. Shall I start again then? Can I be heard now? Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I'm pleased to propose Councillor Flagg for Chair of BCP Council 2021 to 2022. And my reasons are this. Councillor Flagg, in his role as our Chair, has carried our Council through this year, which no one can deny has been a sad and trying time, and he has done it with professionalism and aplomb. Despite the challenge of chairing our meetings in the virtual sphere, and that's been no mean feat when some of us councillors, and I include myself in this, found working through virtual meetings really difficult. But Councillor Flagg has managed by his placid demeanour and his firm unflappability to allow the Council to appear efficient and professional to our residents. We've been through, and I think we're still working through, this deadly pandemic, and it's a period unprecedented in modern times. We still need Councillor Flagg's undoubted capabilities as a chair, both in this chamber and in the towns, to carry us through efficiently and professionally. And it's not only for his undoubted capabilities that I am nominating Councillor Flagg. He's a firm and fair chair, but also for reasons of consistency and continuity. I feel that this council still needs that within the chamber, if we can call this the chamber, and outside the chamber. So my proposal is Councillor Flagg take the role of the chair for the forthcoming year, and I do have a seconder for that, councillors. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dedman, for those kind words. Is there a seconder to the proposal? Councillor Bull, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. I'm very happy to second Councillor Flagg for the position of Chair. He's done an excellent job since the formation of this council. He's a man of integrity and has dealt with the issues that were caused by having online meetings thrust upon us well. He's been a fair man in his chairing, and I urge you to support him. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bull. Is that Councillor Sue Anderson? No. Jackie Edwards. My apologies, it's very difficult. Oh, I am sorry.
Mr Chairman, members of the Council, officers and members of the public, I am proposing that Councillor Nigel Hedges be elected as Chair of BCP Council for 2021-22. I've known Nigel for a number of years, from when our paths first crossed during his 5 years as President of Bournemouth Chamber of Commerce, a role that saw him chairing over 60 local government meetings, helped create the Charities Forum, his own spot in the Chamber's business magazine and a weekly slot on local radio. Since his election as councillor, we've worked closely on cross-ward work where I've witnessed his enthusiasm and dedication to his residents, whether it's wobbling round on his bike delivering letters or filling his classic car with numerous bags of rubbish that he's personally swept. He's worked in Bournemouth Town Centre for 47 years, 40 of those running Bourne Engraving. His small shop being a drop-in centre for everyone. His personal and business network of people is legendary. He has assured me, however, that if elected, he will still maintain his role as bin butler for Granville Place and semi-official role as keeper of the olive trees in Beale Place. I'm sure you all know Nigel is never lost for words, whether he's chairing a chamber meeting, an MG owners gathering, or talking to residents and fellow councillors. Anyone who has been to one of his hugely successful charity quizzes at AFC Bournemouth or the John Egging Trust will also be aware how Nigel is in total command of the room. Nigel will be an inspired chairman of the council, whether chairing full council or representing BCP at civic functions. I ask that you vote Nigel Hedges for chair, and you'll be voting for a dedicated, truly professional man. And I do have a seconder. Thank you, Mr Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. And your seconder is?
Councillor Rampton.
Councillor Rampton, please.
Thank you. Mr Chair, members, officers, members of the public. It's with great pleasure that I'm seconding Councillor Edwards' nomination for Councillor Nigel Hedges as Chair of BCP Council for the ensuing municipal year. Nigel's a local chap well known and respected by his residents in Walderstone and Winton West, by the local business community and the voluntary sector, just to name a few. His community actions range from litter picking, as you've just heard, on a daily basis, to fundraising for good causes. In particular, as Master of Ceremonies at various events and a quiz master, par extraordinaire, all delivered in his unique style. Nigel has an amazing memory. His ability to remember people, places and events and to make connections is second to none, and it's a real skill which he will be able to use as chair. The role of chair of BCP Council is, of course, an important and a serious one. It requires someone who is respectful, fair and just, who without political bias will uphold our constitution, respect our town's civic histories and customs, and promote our council's values right across the conurbation. Mr. Chair, Nigel Hedges will do all the above with warmth and empathy, and no doubt a dash of humour. And for that reason, I urge members of this council to support Councillor Hedges as chair this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rampton. Can I ask if there are any further nominations for the position of chair this evening? No, thank you, members. I will now ask Mr. Richard Jones to conduct the secret ballot. Thank you.
Chairman, if I could ask, the stream is paused while we carry out the secret ballot.
Thank you, councillors. We have a result of the election. There were 74 votes cast, which is the number of councillors that are present. Councillor David Flagg received 33 votes and Councillor Nigel Hedges received 41 votes. Therefore, Councillor Nigel Hedges is elected as the chairman for BCP Council.
If members could just bear with me for a couple of moments while I vacate the chair, please. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Hedges, would you like to take the chair?
Thank you, members. Humbling. Thank you so much. I, Councillor Hedges, having been elected to the office of Chairman of BCP Council, declare that I take the office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. Councillor Dedman, I understand you wish to say a few words.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Well, congratulations to the new Chairman. I'd very much like to propose a vote of thanks to the outgoing Chairman, who, as I said, I think has done a sterling job throughout these years of pandemic. So, yes, I'd like the Council to approve a vote of thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dedman. Far be it for me to pass up the opportunity to say a few words. Okay, I'll break a tradition and say a few words. I'm honoured to accept the nominations of the Conservative Group, BCP Council, and to have been elected by a majority here this evening. Having lived in all three towns that constitute the area of BCP Council, and having lived exclusively in all three towns all of my life, I fully appreciate, recognise and accept the unique character of all three towns, and I would continuously strive to do my best to represent all the residents, establishments and institutions of all three towns if entrusted, and now I've been entrusted and honoured to be elected as Chair of BCP this evening. And I too would like to thank Councillor Flagg for 2 years fantastic service at the inception of BCP during a very, very difficult time indeed. So there'll be large shoes to fill. Right, so as chair of the role as chair of the BCP Council meetings, I'll be confident of the help, support and guidance of the BCP Chief Executive, Mr Graham Farrant, and his Democratic Services team to ensure that that hugely important part of the role of BCP Chair is executed to the best of my ability. The Chairman's role for council meetings, I feel, is the most overt role that falls upon the Chair's duties. And making fair and correct and firm chairing of such meetings are vital to reflect the high standards we not all only strive for, but of a standard of debate and conduct that our residents not only expect but deserve. Having been entrusted with this role personally to be able to continue to put something back into these three towns, which have given three generations of my family so much, then I would truly regard it as an honour and a privilege to work tirelessly accordingly. Thank you. Members, I'd like to ask councillors, I seek nominations for the election of Vice Chairman of the Council until the next annual Council. Do we have proposers, please? Councillor Rigby.
Thank you, Chair, and congratulations.
Thank you.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Wilson, please, for Vice Chairman. I don't know whether you want to seek other nominations or you want me to continue.
You have a seconder, I presume?
I do, yeah. I have got a seconder, yeah. But if I can say a few words then.
Yes, if
that's
you
all
would,
right.
please, yes.
I've not actually wrote anything down about Councillor Wilson, and I feel like that I probably should have after hearing what was said about the previous two nominations, but I'm hoping that the nomination will speak for itself. As we move into BCP Council, and as we did last year, we've took on a younger vice chair to help build the next generation of councillors who are coming through, and I think that's a really good way that we should be moving forwards, and it's one of the main reasons I wanted to nominate Councillor Wilson. But not only is he just a young councillor, he's a councillor who really helped me in my development over the last 2 years, having been a councillor in the former authority as well. He's helped with my development, he's helped see me through this, and he's dedicated to his role as a councillor and as a previous portfolio holder as well. I genuinely can't think of anyone better to hold the vice chair, to learn to represent BCP in the civic duties as well when the chair can't do so. Therefore, I'm nominating Councillor Wilson for seconder in Councillor Slade. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rigby. And the seconder, please.
Yes, Vice Chair, Councillor Slade, seconding Councillor Wilson. I'll stay seated because I understand sound is quite difficult when we're standing from what I've seen. I'd like to second Kieran Wilson as Vice Chair. Since being elected as an independent councillor for his ward in 2018, he's been such a champion for the town, where he's not only was born and brought up, but also chose to study his Masters in Political Communications. Having worked with Kieran for the last 2 years, he's shown huge maturity and dedication, stepping up to be portfolio holder at the inaugural BCP Cabinet. I discovered when I was doing my research that he's always been passionate about homelessness. It is not just something that came about when BCP was formed, and he cited it as his inspiration to stand in the by-election where he represented his ward so well. He's gone on to represent BCP on the national stage during his time, not just as portfolio holder, but even this week, speaking at the LGA in a presentation about councillors and homelessness. Kieran was also recognised for his work at the LGIU Awards last year, being shortlisted for Young Councillor of the Year. And with his disarming manner, his quirky sense of humour, his strange love of football, but more importantly, his incredible love of this area, I think he is well placed to represent BCP in the absence of the chair, and I'm proud to second him for this position.
Thank you, Councillor Slade. Are there any other nominations, please? Councillor Kelsey.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I would like to nominate Councillor Lawrence Fear, please, Chairman, if I may. And I have a seconder for that too.
Thank you, Councillor Kelsey. Can I have the seconder, please? Councillor Anson. M.
Thank you, Chairman. If I may, I'd like to say a few words about my friend, Councillor Lawrence Williams.
Actually, Mark, if you don't mind.
Pardon?
I'll go first if you don't mind.
Councillor Lawrence Fear, I think.
Lawrence Fear, sorry, yes, yes, sorry, my apologies.
I
Yes.
can see how you'd make that mistake, Councillor Sue Anderson, yes.
Right. I have known Lawrence. Sorry. Okay, sorry.
Chairman, may I say a few words about Councillor Fear?
Of course you can.
Thank you very much.
Please, I would welcome it.
Thank you. I'd like to recommend Councillor Fear to continue in his role as Vice Chair. I think under the leadership of Councillor Flagg last year, he learnt a lot, and I thank Councillor Flagg for doing that and for taking him under his wing and looking after him. And I also thank Councillor Flagg for the work he did as chairman. But I think the opportunity for a younger chairman or vice chairman again to carry on doing this will be a great benefit to both himself, yourself as chairman, as he knows the ropes now and he'll be able to keep you under control. And I think also he'll be able to improve himself as a person and to bring politics back, as was said on from the other side about younger people coming back into politics. I think it's essential that we have a bit of continuity, and I would recommend that Councillor Fear continues in that role. And thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Kelsey. Will we hand to Richard Jones to collect the ballot, if we may? We'll now go to the ballots. Sorry, Councillor. Sorry, yes, please, if you could.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll try again. Yes, I've known Councillor Lawrence Fear for quite a while now, since he was first elected for Kinston in 2015. He's always been a hard-working and conscientious councillor, and is always standing up for his residents and making sure I always help out and sort out the issues in his ward. He's been our vice chairman for the last year, and I think he's taken the same approach to this role as he has to his council ward duties. Diligent and conscientious, and I am more than happy to second him for the role of vice chairman, and I wish to see him continuing doing that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. This is an opportunity where I can ask the candidates to say a few words on their behalf. So could I invite Councillor Wilson to say a few words?
Cheers, thank you. Yeah, I haven't prepared anything. I wasn't expecting to speak, but I think it would be a huge honour for myself if I was to be elected as vice chair. I've always, no matter what the role, whether it was in opposition in Bournemouth Borough Council or whether it was in the administration in BCP Council, I've always just been so proud to represent the area that I love and I've been born, and to do that in a different capacity would be fantastic. It's really weird because I can hear an echo, yeah, I think I would love to do the role, and I would show it the dedication that it would deserve. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson, and obviously the right to reply to the other candidate, Councillor Fear, please.
Thank you, Chair. As with all my meetings, I will keep my statement short and to the point. First, may I say, it's been a pleasure to see you all here in person tonight, and to welcome 2 new faces from Camford Heath and Commons. The last 12 months have been a testing and difficult time for everyone. Across the UK, in our own towns, and as close to home as our own families. We have demonstrated our strengths together, and I have been proud to serve as the Vice Chair, which is a supportive role. I've gained valuable experience during this year, representing you all at civic duties and supporting our Chair on both council procedures and running meetings. As we all start the transition from our virtual world back to face-to-face, I welcome the opportunity to serve once again in the forthcoming year. I believe I'm the right person to support our new Chair and move us forward through whatever changes we face. With the determination and strength we have demonstrated over the last 12 months, I'm looking forward to our forthcoming full council meetings, where through open debate we can challenge and inspire, illuminate and inform. I will ensure all voices are heard so that decisions can be based on reasoned argument, collaboration and consensus. These are the principles I have brought to the position of Vice Chair, and with your support I will continue to uphold fairness, good humour and a voice for all. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Fear, thank you. And to everything, now we can hand over to Richard Jones for the
Thank you, Chairman. 74 votes were cast, which is the number of councillors present. Councillor Kieran Wilson received 34 votes. Councillor Lawrence Fear received 40 votes. There were no abstentions. So Councillor Lawrence Fear is elected as the Vice Chairman.
Thank you very much. Could I invite the new Vice Chairman to make the declaration of acceptance of office, please?
I, Councillor Lawrence Fear, having been elected to the office of Vice Chairman of BCP Council, declare that I take the office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Thank you, members. Right, that now takes us to agenda item 6, which is the review of the political balance of the Council, the allocation of seats on committees to each political group, appointment of councillors to committees and appointments to outside bodies. I now call upon Councillor Mellor, who I understand will propose the recommendations in the report. Councillor Mellor.
Yes, Chair, and I would start by congratulating you on your election to Chair. Thank you. Chair, as agenda item 6, it's a review of the political balance. We have an appendix A that's been shared with everybody this evening. I would like to propose that, and with the following 2 amendments. One in table 3, we're amending to move the name Barron to D. Butt in relation to the Standards Committee. And on table 4, removal of the name Bartlett from the Lower Central Gardens Trust Board, thus rectifying the imbalance necessary for unaligned membership, Chair. So very, very happy to propose these. We've worked with a number of people to move this forward. We haven't achieved complete consensus, which I'm sure we're about to establish. But this is a balanced set of proposals, and we're very much in the belief that this is a good structure to take us forward. So, Chair, I do so propose.
Thank you, Councillor Mellor. I now call upon Councillor Broadhead, who I understand wishes to second the recommendations in the report. Councillor Broadhead.
Yes, thank you very much, Chairman. Again, congratulations to you on your new role. I will proudly second the proposal and reserve my right to speak later in the debate. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Broadhead. I'd like to invite anybody else who'd like to speak. If you do raise your hand, quite frankly, you are so far away and you're wearing a mask. If you could declare actually who you are when I point to you, I would appreciate it. I think a hand went up there. If I may call you.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Paul Hilliard.
Hilliard, yes.
It is disappointing that this political balance dispersion was not presented at the Democratic Services and Leaders meeting held on Monday at 1 p.m. What is before us now was only distributed this afternoon at 3 p.m, providing little opportunity to discuss and mutually agree committee representations. The suggested political balance has several shortcomings. In particular, Christchurch overall has a reduced representation on the planning committee. This is undemocratic when residents have continued to request more representation from Christchurch members on this committee. The administration continue to have control of 2 main overview and scrutiny committees, which may stifle debate and water down any recommendations put forward to their own cabinet. Representation on committees by Christchurch independents should not be at the expense of groups representing Poole and Bournemouth. Geographic spread is vital to share residents' knowledge on specific issues and ideas. As I have tried unsuccessfully with a leader to come to a sensible and fair distribution of committees, I suggest the following minor amendment. Poole independents swap their new planning seat for Christchurch independents' new health and adult social care seat. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hilliard. Councillor Hazel Allen, please. I think you had your hand up next. Councillor Allen, is your microphone on? Do you have a microphone there? Yes, it's just coming. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah? I'd like to go back to the vote that we've just cast, and I'd like to make a comment on the email that came round during the vote. I think that that was really very poor. I hope that now we have an excellent new chair and vice chair, that this is the sort of thing that gets called out. I'm sorry, but it's just not appropriate, and I think it's really in poor taste. And I would just like to say that I hope that I don't see anything similar from anybody, and particularly from Councillor Mark Robson in the future. Thank you.
Any more councillors? Councillor Hadley.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Stop item 6.
Yes, I'd just like to agree with my colleague from the Christchurch Independents. I regret that, as the leader said, he didn't really discuss with other groups the balance, and certainly it wasn't discussed with the Board Independents to take our member off of Health and Social Care, Adult Services and Social Care Committee. So we would be very happy to retain that role. I think as well the rush of this being a very last minute, the papers are really not very clear in terms of the new proposals. It showed the Appendix A, which was distributed at 6:15, highlighted things that are partly new, partly existing, and it's just really bad form, frankly. But within that, Board Independents don't have any places on external committees, which is 2 down on our allocation, and I'm not prepared to support that either. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hadley. Any other members like to speak? Somebody who's very, very far away. If you'd like to declare who you are, please. Oh, Councillor Farquhar. Thank you.
If I may, Chair, a point of order. Following on from... Well, the one whereby if somebody proposes an amendment, it is to my understanding that the debate then moves to that amendment, and we haven't had that move to debating that amendment. I understand, thank you. Could I also highlight that there is an error in the paperwork that was provided at 6:15 tonight, and I would also echo Councillor Hilliard point whereby the behaviour of the leader of the council in not attending the meeting on such an important subject yesterday was reflected again in that he made radical changes at 3 o'clock or 3:15 this afternoon. But there is an error in the paper which is presented, and I don't think Democratic Services should be to blame for this, but in the Agenda Supplement 11, page 4, you'll see that my name is listed as being as a seat on the Appeals Committee. It is the intention of the proposal of the leader that that seat would be taken away from Labour and put on the Planning Committee. It is disappointing, to say the least, that the paperwork which is presented before full council here doesn't actually reflect anything other than the haste and the arbitrary nature of the decisions and the proposal which was put together by the leader of the council only this morning and not communicated until after 3 o'clock this afternoon. So could we have that corrected so that the council can actually consider the paper correctly?
Councillor Farquhar, this is the clarity I think that you were seeking from Deputy Councillor.
Apologies, members. That table 3, I think it is, that you're referring to, is actually the current position of memberships on each of the committees. So the table 2 reflects the changes in the political balance and the allocation of seats to political groups, and it will be for the political group leaders to then notify Democratic Services who their representatives are. The only exception to that, and the leader did address that in his speech when he referred to the changes to the unaligned members in relation to the Standards Committee, I believe. So that table is simply illustrating the current position.
Thank you, Councillor Farquhar. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Anybody who wishes to speak, please. Yes.
It's not coming back. It's
Councillor
really
Hilliard.
just to
Yes.
clarify.
Yes, please.
Mr. Chair.
Councillor Hilliard.
So obviously, I was going a minor suggestion of a minor amendment. Now, I don't know the protocol if I need to hold that as an amendment or if the leader is willing to accommodate. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mellor, please.
Just for clarification, Chair, more than happy to accommodate that. I did ask actually the groups to come up with those minor amendments before, so we could have put it out with what went out before. But that is exactly the type of amendment we were looking for in a negotiated position. So glad we've been able to improve that for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's a hand at Councillor Farquhar again, please. I'm sorry. This is at my discretion, and the ruling is that you only get to speak once in this debate.
Understand, Chair, but I wish to propose an amendment.
Yes. I would accept it, please. So
Thank you very much, Chair. I don't wish to give you a hard time on your first day in the Chair, and congratulations on your election. I thank the leader for his good grace in informally accepting the amendment. I was party to a communication between Councillor Hilliard, who made this proposal to Councillor Mellor. I also made a suggestion for an amendment, which is that the seat that the Labour group holds on appeals is to be restored to the Labour group, and Councillor Mellor decides somebody else to go on the planning committee. Would the Councillor Mellor accept that amendment?
we don't take too long over these things. Do we have any more? Councillor Green. M.
Thank you, Chairman, and congratulations from me also. I'd just like to point out one thing and also to correct a statement that has been made during this debate, if you don't mind, Chairman. And the first refers to the timings that the proposal that has come from the Leader of Council has been given. I should remind people who aren't aware of it that there was a change to the political groups that was not announced until yesterday afternoon. That necessitated changes which were hurried through, and admirably so, by Mr. Jones, and there was then an opportunity for the different groups to look at it and to come out with amendments to that, which is exactly what the leader has done, and in a very politically balanced way. He's been able to do so as well, not, if I may point out from somebody who spoke on the other side, leaving the majority of the overview and scrutiny panels in the hands of the Conservatives. In fact, the Conservatives, despite the fact that it could very easily within political proportionality have left in charge, or with the majority, on 3 of the major panels. Well, actually, potentially within 3. But in this case, the proposal is only for 1 of those panels, which is the health and adult social care, leaving the Conservatives in the minority on both the main board and the Children's Services ONS. And I feel that that is important. Now, the change that has been proposed in the amendment indeed moves slightly further away from political proportionality. However, the leader has accepted that, and I think has done so correctly, because we are here to ensure that there is sufficient debate and there is sufficient involvement of all members of this council. In agreeing that, the leader has shown that he's not only prepared to say it, but he's prepared to do it as well. I think that is the right thing to do, and I hope that we can get on with this without any further ado. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Green. Anybody else wish to speak on this? Right, the position we're in, Councillor Hilliard's amendment has been agreed by the leader, I understand. And if there are any other amendments or disagreements, challenges to the allotting of parties and certain committees and panels, what we'd need to do is have a 5-minute adjournment, and unless we get a full consensus vote, it will go to a 5-minute adjournment where the parties will discuss it and come to an agreement. When we call the vote in a moment, if it's not a full consensus, then it will be a question of the party leaders getting together for a 5-minute adjournment to come up with an agreement that will get a unanimous vote. I didn't see them go up in order, but I see Councillor Howell first, please.
Yes, it's just to ask for some clarification in regard to what those discussions you've just mentioned are going to be about. Councillor Hadley has said he has objected to the outside bodies. So that, is it about section D and E of the resolution? Is that what the discussion is about?
So it's just the outside bodies that is a bone of contention. How would we propose to cover? Right, so other than the outside bodies, would we be happy to vote on the rest of the proposals? Councillor Dedman, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Well, I want to be sure that I know what I'm voting on, because usually when we have an amendment, we vote on the amendment first. But in this case, I understand that the leader has changed what we're voting on without that needing to be done. Is that right? So when we vote, we are voting on something that is not
what
on the
Councillor
paper.
Mellor has just agreed to at Councillor Hilliard's proposal.
So,
so it's only the outside bodies, I understand, that are a contention that will be held at another time.
Sorry, Chair. So can you clarify when we do vote what we are voting for, so that that's as clear as it would be had we had the amendment in the proper manner?
Thank you, Councillor Dedman. I'm going to ask Democratic Services somebody to take the microphone and give you the official. Correct, Councillor, Mr. Jones. Thank you.
So members, again, the leader will correct me if I'm wrong, but in his proposal, he proposed that table 3, Councillor Barron on the Standards Committee would be replaced by Councillor Daniel Butt. And in table 4, in relation to the outside bodies, removing Councillor Bartlett as a non-aligned member from the Lower Central Gardens Trust Board, and allocating that seat to the Poole Independents. Councillor Hilliard then proposed or requested the change to the between the planning committees and the health and adult social care, swapping the seat from Christchurch Independence on the health and adult social care to planning committee, to give them 2 seats, and to replace their seat on the health and adult social care to the Paul Independence. Councillor Mellor accepted that alteration to his motion. So that is therefore the proposition that's on the table, as I understand it. Can I just clarify one other point, though, that in relation to the table 4, in relation to the outside bodies, there is still an imbalance. So even with that change, there is still a deficit of 1 seat for the Paul Independents and an additional seat to the Bournemouth Independents and Greens.
But if members are happy with that, then we could vote on the whole thing. If not, we could vote on everything bar the outside bodies and come back to the outside bodies, if that would be helpful.
So can I put that to you members, that on the details that Mr Jones has outlined to us all, if you're happy with that, we can go ahead with the vote on that, looking for a consensus. And we have some hands up, I see, and discuss the outside bodies at another time. Councillor Hadley, did you have your hand up?
Yes, for clarity, we don't accept the position on the outside bodies, so I would prefer you dealt with them separately, if you could, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That will be noted. Thank you. Councillor Pedowin. Microphone, there we go.
Thank you. I'm still very puzzled because we've been told by the leader of a couple of name swaps in his original speech, not talking about the proposals from Councillor Hilliard. The original one, there were some name swaps, but there needs to be far more amendment than that to fit in with the new numbers. For instance, there are 8 councillors on planning committee listed when there are only 7 in the new system. There are 3 Conservatives on appeals committee when under the new system there are 4. So why haven't we had the full list of changes? Why only a couple?
See that, please. Thank you for your question, Councillor Pedowin.
Chairman, that wasn't me, that was Councillor O'Malley.
Yes.
Chairman, may I just explain? So again, I think
Please.
Councillor Pedowin is referring to Table 3 in relation to the numbers. Table 3, it does not reflect the numbers in Table 2. So Table 2 is actually what you're approving. So you're approving the allocation of seats to political groups as set out in Table 2, or you would be if you were when it put to the vote. Table 3 is then the allocation of councillors by those political groups in accordance with the allocation of numbers. So that position there, again, we haven't had the updates from each of the group leaders to reflect those. So ordinarily, we will actually say that the group leaders will need to notify us as soon as possible after the close of the meeting of those named to match the numbers. So you're right. As an example, there are currently 8 Conservative members on the planning committee. The proposal is to reduce that by 7, and the leader of the Conservative group would therefore be required to advise us of the changes to the licence to the planning committee after this meeting.
So just to be really clear, you are not voting on the individual members of the committees. You're voting on the number of seats per part to each party, as set out in Table 2.
Correct. Again, if I can, sorry, Chairman, if I may just clarify.
Yes, please.
The reason we include those names is because the unaligned, well, ordinarily we would have more time in a lead up after an election and the council meeting. Clearly, the by-elections fell a few days before council, and therefore we haven't been able to pull those together. But we did do this last year, so there were a number of advices on changes to memberships of committees in exactly the same way. But we include this list because we need to resolve and agree at council the unaligned members who sit on committees. So that has to be approved by council, but the political groups are allowed to change their memberships on committees as they wish. Ideally, we would have them all in the frame, but we haven't got the time at this particular juncture.
Thank you, Mr Jones. Councillor Pelvin, does that satisfy your position at the moment? It is assurances. Sound as though it's in due process, but it's been the timing of the full council AGM and the by-elections. But with those assurances, I hope that people accept the fact that we can make progress on the first part and then obviously the extra part. I think there's two hands up, Councillor Mellor and I think here's Councillor Stribbley next. Councillor Mellor, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Point of clarification, please. If we're going to move the outside bodies to a further meeting, are the members of those outside bodies that are agreed in this table going forward? If not, I'll make an amendment to get that balance so that we don't need to reach amendment agreement for this council.
It's proposed that we'll have a short adjournment and then come back and finish it at this meeting.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Stribbley, please.
Not sure I need the microphone. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations on your appointment. Could we please have some clarification? What is the Investigation and Disciplinary Committee? Is that another name for the Standards Board, please?
Again, apologies, members, for me stopping over. My microphone is giving feedback. So it's not Standards Board or Standards Committee. It's a separate committee that looks at disciplinary matters against very senior officers and the chief executive directors and statutory officers.
It was just an example, can I say?
Okay, yeah. Right, so it's proposed that we take a vote on this now, and other than the outside bodies, and if that's successful, then we can adjourn and then move to the, after 5 minutes adjournment, sort out the outside bodies issues. So do the members agree that we can go to the vote, please? Okay. Councillor Butt, please. Judy Butt. Well, we would be hoping for efficiency that it would be unanimous, but obviously if we have a, it's not a medical, is it a medical emergency or is, would the members just agree just to afford a short bit of compassion time? Should we do the adjournment now then? Would members be happy if we adjourn now? Okay. I know I've seen leaders of parties huddled. So we're in a position now where we can ask Leader of the Council to speak on the balanced position of the distribution of seats on panels and boards. And we will be, Democratic Service advised me that we will be looking for a majority vote, and the process of that will be, if you're voting for, you will stand. So if you're just sitting down with your hand, that could be a bit more difficult. So when you vote for, if you stand, that would be a great help. So I can't see any hands raised, so if I could ask Councillor Mellor to put together what you've designed in the last 10 minutes. Thank you, Councillor Mellor.
Thank you very much, Chair. So I'll just set out effectively why we're in this position. So there is currently an imbalance on the outside bodies. Currently, the Bournemouth Independent and Greens have one extra seat, and the Poole Independents have one fewer seat. We've spent the last 10 minutes trying to discuss a solution to that. We haven't been able to, and I thank my colleagues, Councillor Rigby, and also I can't believe I've forgotten Andy's name, but Andy Hadley, who's worked through that with us. Effectively, we can get to a balance by me now proposing that we move the Bournemouth Independent and Green seat on the Dorset Police and Crime Panel to the Poole Independents. So there we now have a balance. If that's now seconded by Councillor Broadhead, we'll now have a balanced situation, so we can just take a vote on that, and it will be a majority vote, Chair. So to be clear, I'm proposing that we move the Bournemouth Independent and Green seat on the Dorset Police and Crime Panel to the Poole Independents to get to balance. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mellor. Right, so if we could progress to the... we have a hand. Councillor... Please.
Thanks, Chair. I just want to say that it's really disappointing that we end up in this position where we're trying to negotiate this in a 5-minute adjournment to try and get balance across this and vote on it. Bournemouth Independent and Greens have held the seat on the Police and Crime Panel for as long as this group has existed. We have one extra chair because Poole, what are now Poole Independents, graciously gifted that to us so that Bournemouth representation could sit on the Lower Central Gardens Trust Board. We are now still 2 years into this term as well, and that board is still not met. So effectively, by Bournemouth Independent and Greens having that one seat, we've got a seat on no boards, because if a board isn't meeting, it doesn't exist. I just want to register that I'm really, really disappointed in this, and our group won't be voting for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rigby. Anybody else? Councillor Hadley.
Yes, thank you. I'd just like to echo the comments from Councillor Rigby. I'm not happy really to be taking over a seat from his group. I appreciate that's what the leader has come up with. But also we gave up the Bournemouth Lower Gardens committee because it's clearly not something that's of particular relevance to Poole. That has been offered in order to come to balance and to preclude other negotiations, and it just feels wrong, frankly. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Hadley. Councillor Farquhar. We'll need a microphone.
Thank you, Chair. I would echo what Councillor Rigby and Councillor Hadley had to say there. I think it's fairly telling that the leader can't even remember another group leader's name in the way that he actually conducts himself in group leader meetings. An example of that is that even though I have written to the leader and to lend my support to his proposal for the political balance, he did not seek me out at any stage during the adjournment to actually discuss that. So I'd just like to register in the same way that Councillor Hadley has. I'm very disappointed in his conduct as a group leader to his other group leader peers.
Councillor Broadhead, because you were the original seconder. You have the floor, Councillor Broadhead.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Hopefully we're coming to the end of this debate now. I recognise a lot of my colleagues' comments about we're all very disappointed that this has happened so late, but as my colleague Mike Green pointed out earlier on, there are reasons why this is so late. We had to address this political balance due to the elections that took place last week. We spent a considerable time over the weekend working on the first stab of that, only to find out yesterday afternoon that there was a new grouping in play which threw everything pretty much out of whack. So the last 24 hours have been spent trying to consult with as many people as possible to come up with what we have before us, which is a balanced by law proposal to look at everyone in as equitable way as we can on all of the various boards and panels. A lot of the adjournment time and the debate tonight has been about the outside bodies debate. The outside bodies debate is precisely the one thing that we really can't control and is very much up to the other parties to come to agreement on. In the extensive adjournment that we've had, they have not been able to come up with an agreement, therefore the leader has stepped up and put a proposal that is balanced in law, and that is what we're voting on now. We need to get this done, and I hope that as many members as possible can support this, because we need to make this decision, and we haven't had any other options presented to us. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Broadhead. So, Mr. Farrant has shown me the 5 points that we need to vote on, taking, if you've got your screens open, A, B and C en masse, for looking for a majority vote. So I would call for a vote, and we're looking for a majority. If you would stand if you're in favour of A, B and C. And you want everyone to sit down, those to stand against. Okay, so if all those 4 could sit down, if all those against, if you could stand, please. For all those against, if you could stand, thank you. And any abstentions, please, if you'd care to stand. Looks like 1 abstention. Two abstentions? 3? It will be recorded, Councillor Farquhar, yes. Thank you, members, for that. That vote was carried. Thank you. So it's 41 for, 2 abstentions, 21 against. So we do the same, please, for D. If I could ask for those in favour of D to stand. Thank you. Thank you. If you could sit, please, and those against, if you would care to stand, please. Thank you. And any abstentions, please? Thank you. I think you can sit now. Thank you. Sorry. So that was 43 in favour, 14 against and 17 abstentions, which is carried. And then that takes us on to E. The Democratic Services are anticipating that if it's been a majority on both, on all four, first four and the fifth, E would be accepted. Does any member feel we need to go through a vote on that E? No. Councillor Farquhar, please. The microphone is just coming to you, Councillor Farquhar. Thank you.
Subject to the debate that we've just had and the discussion between the group leaders, which I wasn't party to, for the non-aligned, which is subject E, if I'm correct, then I feel that I can only abstain.
Thank you. Thank you, members. This has been an experience for all of us, for me especially. But thank you for your kindness and understanding, but also making sure that we do have debate and all voices are heard. Right, the date of the next council meeting. It's proposed that the next ordinary meeting of the council, currently scheduled for the 2nd of June 2021, will now be rescheduled to the 22nd of June 2021 at 7 p.m, following the government's proposal to lift further COVID restrictions on the 21st of June 2021. And if there's nothing else left on the agenda, I'd thank you all very much indeed. Close the meeting and wish you a very safe journey home, and see you in easier ergonomic circumstances at the next meeting. Thank you very much.